Here's a video on how I practice and prepare to do an event that I think I can accomplish well inside of iRacing. This time I picked the Porsche 718 GT4 at Road America. If you don't know, I'm legally blind. I have a rare degenerative disease called retinitis pigmentosa that has affected my peripheral vision and my night vision. I also have an electrical storm floating through in the middle everywhere I look at all times. Over the 26 years I've been sim racing, I've always practiced a lot, but now that my eyesight is degrading to such a state, I have to get out there on the server and see for myself if I even can drive in a race. I'm not even prepared lap time wise, but also can I see through every corner and every stretch of this track. Today we're using the green line because the cloud cover is pretty high. I think it's about 9 a.m. in game with the trees and all the other dark aspects to the outside of the track. It makes that green pop for me. But if we were to go to Sebring or Motorsport at noon on a clear day, maybe even Spa, I'd have to use the black line because it would be in stark contrast to everything else around it. iRacing allows those of us with visual disabilities to send them a note about enabling a flag where we can make the driving line 2 meters wide like this. And what that does is just tell me where the safe part of the track is. It doesn't mean I have to follow it exactly, but it's another reference. I also need to know how to run parallel to it into certain corners if I'm being passed or I'm overtaking someone else. It's all part of the process, and it's not a foregone conclusion that I'll be able to race in a week. Sometimes the track and car combo and the time of day and weather just don't line up. But these are my first laps at Road America in a GT4. I have a lot of experience with the GT4 at Nürburgring. I've also driven Road America a bunch in everything from Super Formula, GT3, MX5, etc. But as you can see, I'm very wobbly into turn one. I keep dropping my left side wheels on the grass. When one of those LMP3s comes up to me, I almost feel like it's blowing me off the track, even though it's just me being nervous.
Right side. Clear.
Moving on here to turn 3, and I'm still very wobbly on the brakes and sawing at the wheel all the way to the apex, which is just scrubbing speed and taking away from my exit here, which will propel me to turn 5. So I've got a lot more to work on. This attempt on lap 4 isn't too bad, really, but then on 5 I drift too far away from the apex and my minimum speed just drops way too much. So now we're at turn 5, the long braking zone, and I only messed that up on my first attempt, dropping my right side wheels way too early and looking all askew. I'm really only focusing on how many blocks into the red can I brake, because the line that's here from iRacing is generic for the sports car, not even for this GT4. There's another one for faster cars, for prototypes, and for even slower machines. Turn 8. One of my least favorite on this circuit. I just can't seem to get it right. I don't know how much of the curb I should take, and even if I want to put my left side tires on there, I always seem to be drifting wide. It's just one of those corners for me, I'm afraid. Skipping ahead a little bit because carousel and the kink are not exactly difficult in the GT4, though I did have to use the carousel for some setup adjusting. I'll show a little bit of that later. Not much to say for Canada Corner from me. It's pretty straightforward. I do straight line braking for the most part, and maybe a little bit of trail brake to the apex if I can do it right. And the last of my early attempts at the final corner here, trying to get the trajectory to take me right to that outside curb and get the highest speed I can going up the hill to the start finish line. I should also point out I'm using one of the stock setups from iRacing. I think it's labeled Sprint Open, and I haven't made any adjustments to it just yet. But in a moment like this, where I felt I should be able to hold on to the road a bit better coming out of the carousel, I realized I need to make some kind of adjustment. Now, I don't like to change a lot when I'm in the setup, especially when I'm not all that comfortable with the car or the track. And the areas where I feel what the car is doing the most are in the carousel and at the kink, where it loads up and I can tell how much grip I have or don't, on where I'm chucking it in and how it's handling on the other side. And for that, I just don't like the way it's rotating. So I'm going to take the rear bump and rebound down one click, and I'm going to go up on the rear anti-roll bar. Of course, I'm not just practicing how I want to lap the circuit, but also how I'll share the road with other people.
Clear. Car
I
on
wasn't
your
quite
left.
sure what
Clear.
happened in the moment, but it was a good excuse to go practice a pit stop. The prototype driver ended up apologizing to me, and then I apologized to them after I saw that my right side wheels hit the grass and screwed up my angle into the carousel. I consider moments like this to be critical to my practice even. I want to go through every corner with another GT4 and another prototype if possible, so I'm aware of what they're going to do, what I might do, keeping my eyes busy on the screen to look at the relative, look at the mirror, and where I'm going, because I'm very aware of what I don't see a lot of the time, and I have to economize where I'm placing my eyes so that I can keep the highest amount of spatial awareness that I can. Now it's time to put it all together. I got up and had a snack after 12, 13 laps, a couple of crashes, incident with that LMP3 that we just saw. I went a little wide at the exit of one there. But these are the first couple of laps that I got into the 19s. Otherwise, I felt I was stuck in the 20s. Go on to this short straight, although it turns a little bit to the right. And for some reason, I'm wandering away from the green line. Maybe I'm talking to my cat at this moment. I can't remember. But coming into the long turn 5 braking zone again, and getting on the brakes too early. I am able to notice if I flip my eyes to the right there's a concrete patch that maybe I can just get away with sneaking a glimpse at it to see if I can be more consistent with where I want to hit the brake pedal, because otherwise it's just a few meters into the red, isn't it? I need to say that the line is not gospel for me. There's a little brake mark there in that right-hander at turn 7. I don't do that. I just lift a bit and throw it in there as well as I can and hope that it sticks. That's not the best turn 8 I've ever done, but it being my bogey corner, I'll take it. That wasn't terrible for me. Following up on my own adjustments, I'm lifting at just before it goes to the yellow. It gives me enough rotation with the nose to keep the disposition of the car settled so that when it gets back to the green, I can hit it right about where it is, and maybe even a touch early if possible. And same for the kink, though I could have turned in just a hair earlier than I did. Watching my Canada corner back, I could go a little further into the braking zone. There's a pretty big delay in between my brake pedal and throttle pedal there, where there's nothing happening. And much like turn 7 and 10, 13 here, just a slight lift to get some authority with the front end and steer it where I need to. At this point, this is the best I'd taken the last corner. I felt like I picked up the throttle early enough, and it put me right at the edge, and I was able to get a 219.1, which was 1 to 2 seconds quicker than I had been going in the first half hour I was practicing.
New fast flat for you.
Looking at the results at the end of this session, I definitely have more time to gain on some of the others, where I'm 2 seconds, at least 2 seconds back. I would imagine some others are going to drop into the 16s, and I've only just found 2 minute 19 lap time for myself. So there's a lot more out there for me to gain. But rather than bang my head against the wall and try to find a 10th here, a 10th there, I went to bed. A nice night of rest, got up, loaded the same setup that I had from last night, and I did a 2:17.7 on my second lap and the third lap. And in fact, my average overall for the whole run was a high 17. I'm really happy with the progression with the Porsche over just an hour worth of driving. I might be familiar with Road America, but not so much with this car away from Nürburgring Nordschleife. So it's just a kind of feeling I want to hold on to going forward when I get frustrated by something, to know that there are times that I need to walk away and to think about what I've been doing, how I've been driving, and evaluate from the external views and watching back my video like this. Did you see that last little wiggle I did on the start finish straight? I was so impressed with myself that I could do a 17 all of a sudden, that I nearly wiped out just looking at the bottom right of the screen. So that's just a bit of my process for how I get prepared to race during the week. I haven't even turned a lap in anger in any of the sprint races. If you have any comments or tips that you want to give, I'd be happy to read them. It'd be great to see what people have to say about it. Though I will remind people that if you want to tell me to turn the driving line off, that's not very good advice from me, because that's where I'm keeping my eyes over 90% of the time while I'm driving. It is literally the only thing that's keeping me on the track. There's other games I would like to try at the moment, like Le Mans Ultimate, and their accessibility stuff just isn't up to the same standard that iRacing has. Thanks for watching the video. If any of you see me out there on track, whether it's in the race server or just practicing, don't hesitate to say hello in the voice chat or in the text. It'd be great to say hello back to all of you. We'll catch you next time.